welcome to LexTalk World talk show presented by Clickaway Creators. Today we have Ms. Sonica Dua with us. She is Head of Legal Asia at Al-Futtaim Group. Sonica is an experienced commercial solicitor with varied multi-jurisdiction cross-border transactional knowledge and has worked with over 135 reputed brands, both brick and mortar and online. Thank you so much for joining us, Sonica, today. We are pleased to have you with us.
Thank you, Vinay. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right, great. Sonica, so first of all, I would request if you can please brief us about your professional and personal journey so far in the legal space and otherwise.
Sure. So as you already said, I'm an England and Wales qualified solicitor. After qualifying, so at Memory Crystal, which is a boutique law firm, I transitioned straight in-house. I always knew that I wanted to kind of see a journey from start to finish, so working in-house is perfect for me. I spent 4.5 years at the Al Group in Kuwait, after which I moved to Fly Dubai, which is the sister airline of Emirates in Dubai. And then I moved across again. So Al basically specialise in franchising distribution. It's also a big multinational conglomerate, so lots of private family work as well. So that was more my area and my field, and I absolutely love the commercial aspect. So I basically moved again and went to work for the reputable Al-Futtaim Group. I was working in their head office for just under a year before I was moved across to Singapore to look after the Asia retail operations, which is what I'm doing now.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for that quick brief. Moving ahead and talking about the retail sector, since you said that that was your love and you started working for that and you really like doing that. So, and currently you head the legal team for Asia region.
Yeah.
We also wanted to know what kind of impact that you see due to COVID-19 on the retail sector in the Asian region, and what solutions do you foresee from a legal perspective?
So look, COVID-19 is a global pandemic. It doesn't just affect retail, it is affecting everyone. And so if we look at retail in specific, and if we look at Singapore has essentially been shut down since the 7th of April, and it's been closed for everything except essential services. So retail has been impacted in a way that although the stores are shut, people are still expected to pay rent, employees still need to be paid, there may be other contractual obligations, you've got stock, etc. coming in. So you haven't been able to sell, but the show must go on. So it's been very challenging to basically keep the business going, keep the brands going, and to stay afloat is exceptionally challenging. But also, if you flip it, it's in no one's interest for a brand or a business to go under. So what do we do? There's a couple of solutions that you can look at, and I'll go through the legals first as to what, the approach that you should. So number one, you look at your insurance provisions. Do you have business continuity insurance? If you have business continuity insurance, your insurance provider should be covering you for the duration that your stores are shut, or there might be a minimum amount that they will cover you for. The other thing that you can look for if you're in either in a civil law or a common law jurisdiction is whether you've built a force majeure provision into the contracts. If you're in a civil law jurisdiction, then it will be built into the law. So you do have some protections there. But in a common law jurisdiction, you must have built it into your contract. So what is force majeure? Force majeure is an extraordinary event outside of each party's control that basically means you're unable to fulfill an obligation. So in this instance, can you open the stores? No, the landlords cannot give you access to the premises because there's a control order, you're not allowed to sell. Equally, from a tenant's perspective, can you pay the rent? Well, no, you haven't been able to sell because of COVID-19. As you said, you don't have access to the premises. So therefore, you do not have the rent to be able to pay. You've made no money. You can't, how do you pay the landlord? Do you see what I mean? So there's those sorts of provisions. And if you don't have that, then ultimately what you need to be doing is coming to a commercial arrangement or understanding with your partners, with the brand principals, with the landlords, because as I said, the main objective is to keep the business going. It is in no one's interest that a business shuts down.
That's true. It's in nobody's interest, and that's kind of impacting the whole world, as you rightly said. So these are the two options that you suggest. A lot of retailers who are kind of are stuck in this situation right now and can't really move north. And maybe they can come up with solutions like if they have the insurance, or if they can have if they had the force majeure implemented in the contract, and maybe these are the ways that they can.
So that's for now. We also don't foresee, we don't know when this is going to come to an end. So if you didn't have the force majeure provisions, then put them in when you're coming to renewals. Come to a medium that works for both parties. Also think about material adverse change clauses. So has your position materially changed, which now allows you and gives you the option to renegotiate? This is a clause. These things need to go in to protect businesses.
All right, absolutely. So that makes sense. If in case you did not have this in the contract before, then maybe this is the right time to do it, because as Sonica said, you never know when this is going to end. And also, we might see this coming back into phases. So this will really help us when something of this kind struck us next time. We should be ready with our contracts and have force majeure implemented. I think that's what you're trying to say, Sonica.
Yeah, I am. And if you can't, look, also the flip side is, so the retailers will really want this, but landlords, brand principals, suppliers equally might also say, no, we need to be protected. So then in that instance, you really need to come to a commercial solution that supports both parties.
All right, that absolutely makes sense. So here are some tips for you if you're in the retail business, looking forward for solutions from an industry expert. All right, moving ahead. As a legal professional, Sonica, what are those 3 core values that you truly believe in? And you believe that if our young legal professionals also kind of start following those values and implement them into their careers, they can have a great flourished career as well in the legal space?
Okay, so one of them has to be commitment. And so honestly, do things properly. If you're going to do anything, and I've said this from the start, if you're going to do anything, please do it properly, or just don't do it at all, because there will be someone else that will come in and they will do it properly. So commitment is my first. The second one is respect. You need to have respect for the profession, and you need to have respect for the people that you work with. And that cuts across all sectors. There is no one's job that is too insignificant or too important to not be treated on an equal playing field. Everyone deserves respect. It will really help you. And then the last one is, I guess, creativity and having solutions. Yes, as a lawyer, you identify risk. You say, no, you can't do this. But no one, especially when you're in-house, like myself, no one likes to hear no. What you need to say is, no, you can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. However, you can do this, this, and this, which also brings you to the same conclusion that you wanted. So they are my top 3 that I can give you.
Okay, great. I think the site for solution is very important. And I have been talking to a lot of legal professionals these days from around the globe. I think one change that we're trying to bring into the industry, and if I talk about from the legal perspective, is that now the in-house counsel or legal professionals working for these corporate houses are not really sitting on the back seat. They have to come in the front, and they have to grab the driving seat and come up with a lot of solutions, because the demands are changing every day. It's a different world altogether. I'd like to talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So that's exactly right, Binay. You really do need to get involved, especially if you're in-house. Look, I won't talk for private practice, but when you're in-house, you are embedded within the business. You are assisting with input that helps make key decisions, which is fantastic, but it also comes with a great responsibility. And you also have to remember that you're there to help the business. You are providing a service. So you need to get in there, you get stuck in, but it is so rewarding. You also learn so many different areas. So you get an understanding of tax, you get an understanding, if you think about retail, about the retail cycle, you understand how to forecast. They're all different areas. So within the legal, you're actually developing into I would say, a more greater role and properly integrated within the business.
That reminds me of another session that I was having with Inhouse from Dubai, and he said that I don't want to be called myself a legal professional or an in-house, but I want to be called myself a business executive with a legal backpack. So I have that brain, I have that mind at every point in time. I can think about solutions, but I'm completely embedded into the business and working towards the overall success of my company. So that's truly said.
You do, Vinay. You want to be embedded as well, because you want to be approachable. Gone are the days where the legal professionals were kind of in their office or whatever. You need to be in there getting your hands dirty, but it's also rewarding because it means that you've actually made a difference, that you've contributed and genuinely contributed.
Absolutely right. It does really make the difference. All right, moving ahead, if you have ever faced in your career some sense of gender inequality during the career, would you like to share some story with us, or maybe an example when you had to face such a inequality?
Look, has there been gender inequality? There have been. I've had some quite, in my, like now looking back, quite laughable comments that I've had. So one, I was presumed to be a secretary, which was interesting, but you're not offended by it. It just is. And also, as I always say, it's always quite fun to be underestimated. If you go in and you've done your research and you've put the work in, to be honest, it doesn't matter if people hold these preconceptions of you, because once you show that you know what you're doing, then all of that kind of gets pushed to the side.
That's right. Absolutely right. And maybe now you think that those were some laughable moments, but at that point in time, you must have felt very stressed or maybe frustrated at times as well.
You at the time you do feel a bit frustrated, but then you also recognize it's not your prejudice. You're not the one that's just put someone in the box. Actually it's happened to you. So then what can you do? You just have to work a little bit harder to turn that situation around. And then once you are able to demonstrate that you're trusted, once you're able to demonstrate that actually you're adding value, you know what you're talking about, it does take some time to be able to demonstrate that to a business. It takes time to be able to gain trust. But once you've done that, actually how you look or how you dress or whatever doesn't really matter, because the business wants your advice.
That's true. And eventually results really turn around things, So if whatever you did, whatever efforts that you made, and if you were able to generate better results out of that, and if you were able to advise your company in a much better way, then everything gets aside, and then that trust building starts to happen. Absolutely correct. Yeah. I would like to move on to the next question now, Sonica, and here we would like to have your tips. So what tips would you like to give to someone looking to get into the legal profession? Maybe we want to talk about the young legal professionals, or maybe the law college students who are still in the colleges, but they are maybe in the final semesters or something, and they're looking forward to have a legal career or a legal profession ahead of them. So what tip would you like to give to them?
Okay, so for those at law school, right, once you've done the exams, etc., like law school is amazing. It teaches you lots of valuable skills. But I have to be honest, when you put them into the real world, it's not how the legal profession actually works. So you've got all the theory there, but you need to understand how to apply it. So one of my biggest tips would be to go and get some work experience. You don't want to turn up on your first day at work in the law firm, having never actually stepped foot in a law firm other than for your interviews. So you want to be able to understand how the business works. And that's the same for in-house as well. If you can, and it's available to you, you must go and get some work experience. So therefore the students, I would say, and for, I guess, slightly more developed and younger lawyers would be to try and be more, especially if you're in-house. So my experience is commercial in-house. So just try and be more commercially minded. So yes, you're looking, as if you've got a contract in front of you, yes, you're looking at the legalities of a contract. So think about it from your business's perspective as well. There's an automatic renewal provision. You're looking at a SaaS contract. You know, it automatically renews after 3 years. Now, that might sound okay to you, but realistically, you must understand that the technology industry is evolving and developing. So do you want an automatic renewal, even if the cost is a little bit lower? Actually, maybe not, because a better technology may have come out and therefore you don't want to sign up for that. But then if you flip it and you're actually working for the IT company, you want to try and make sure that that automatic renewal goes in. In fact, you want to try and make it as onerous as possible to try and come out of that automatic renewal, because it works in your company's favor to make sure that the revenue continues past the initial 3 years. So with everything that you do, try and just be a bit more commercially minded. So you're taking, so my personal experience has been, I take the company, I take various business sectors through the agreements. And what I do is, I know, look, they're very busy at doing what they do. I know they're not going to have read the agreements. So what I try and do is flag bits for them. Do you need, for example, do you need to send 9 people to go on training at X amount, you know, for X cost? No, you probably want to try and cap it to your own company's travel policy. And you also might actually may be cheaper for them to send their trainer to us. You know, you just go through them with a business and try and figure out, yes, it might sound good on paper, but what's the reality? It is very important that the reality of the situation matches what's inside the contract. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That really makes sense. So here are the top tips from Sonica for you. If you're in the law school or you're a young legal professional, this is something that you should follow and that should really help you. Thank you so much for sharing such great insights with us. For our viewers, if you like this interview, if you like this chat with Sonica, please like and share this video. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Clickable Creators, to have more coming from the industry leaders. It was a pleasure.
You're most welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you too.